Welcome everyone for the opening panel discussion of the Thailand Cloud and Datacenter 2025. My name is Norasak Suphakorntanakit. I'm the head of capital market and investment at the Cushman Wakefield. And today we're gonna discuss about the future of Thailand data center. We are really lucky to have like key speaker who is are the expert and key stakeholders in the industry. So I would let members to introduce yourself.
Yes, welcome, Insa Illgen. I'm a project director of the Thai-German Corporation Energy, Mobility and Climate. I'm not necessarily a data center company representative, so I think maybe I'm a little bit like the outlier of this panel. But I think what we bring to the table is a lot of expertise on global development collaboration, expertise from other countries, geostrategic perspectives, and mostly energy. That's the main question that we will bring to this panel. How do we secure the energy supply for the rising demand in data centers and how we make sure that it's sustainable?
Thank you, Norasak. So my name is Supparat. Good morning to everybody. Representing the Thailand Datacentre Association today. And we'll be sharing with you what we plan to do today to give everybody access to power. We'll be talking about that today. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. My name is Supparat from AIMS Data Center. Thank you for organizer to inviting me to this opportunity to share the experiences and what is the future of Thailand next.
Thank you. So I think everyone, as we saw from the news, that there is a really high demand for data center development in Thailand. So I would like to ask all the speakers about what are the key unique advantage that Thailand have and what we need to catch up to become like a regional hub of data center.
Yes. So focusing on the energy side, I think Thailand has three major advantages. One is the regional location. It has a potential to become a power hub in a regional ASEAN power grid. And that's important because the bigger the grid, the better the supply. Secondly, I think what we see in Thailand is also like a very much appreciation for industrial zones and pushing innovation through industrial zones. So there's a lot of support from the industry itself, but also from the governmental sector. And thirdly, I think that's very important when we look into the sustainability aspect is a question about the national and local commitment to net zero emissions. And Thailand just launched on the 3rd of November this year, the NDC 3.0. And I think that's a very good signal that there is a very high interest because the future of data centers solely, in my opinion, rely on sustainable and renewable energy. So if that goes hand in hand, we have a very good potential for Thailand at hand. And yeah, maybe the fourth little thing, I think we have a very good grid already in place. So it's not that we have to start from scratch.
So I think from a hub perspective, I think everybody's talking about how each country could be a hub. But if we put that aside for a bit and we look at the actual customer demand. So from direct conversations with customers, both Chinese and US players that require co-location services, we see roughly about 1.4 gigawatts gross of power within 2026, right? And these are based on in-flight discussions, based on LOIs and so on and so forth on that, not just on speculative type of discussions. In order to achieve that, we do have an important announcement that we want to share with everybody in the industry. And you'll see the official announcement from the government probably by the end of this month. So from a Thailand Data Center Association, we've been quietly working with the Ministry of Energy for the last 3-4 months. The result of that is that we will be introducing 4 different sites, 4 different zones in EEC with direct access to 1.5 gigawatts being purchased directly from EGAT. For those of you that may not be aware or quite new to the Thai market, Thailand is the only country in Southeast Asia where there's 2 energy entities. So you basically have EGAT, who does the production, if you may, of the energy source. And we have PEA, if you're outside Bangkok, that does the distribution of that. In EEC today, there's roughly about 5.4 gigawatts of power available today. But what's happened is that 3.4 gigawatts of power have been reserved through PEA. And that's because, there's multiple data centers coming into the market and everybody's asking for power, right? Bidding for 3 to 4 customers at most. So that power has all been, if you may, reserved and allocated. However, there's still a surplus of 2 gigawatts of power available in EEC today. From a country perspective and from an industry perspective, we have the government's endorsement that if we don't allow the end customer through the DC operators to have access to 2 gigawatts of power through EGAT, these opportunities will go to a different hub, whether it's Indonesia or Malaysia on that. So you'll see the official announcement probably at the end of the month, but there will be 4 different zones. Each zone will have a minimum capacity of 300 megawatt gross, access directly to EGAT, minimum of 230 kV, up to 500 kV. So these will be the only 4 sites in the entire country with access to this. Power cost is expected to be about 10% less than market price because there is no PEA involved in this on that. All 4 sites have been vetted by the Thailand Datacenter Association. They can be built as DC campuses. So with that, right, this is one way that not necessarily making Thailand into a hub, but making at least the power availability accessible and resolving that as DC operators invest into the country.
All right, thank you. Okay, beside the power that we're talking about that related to DC, Thailand has advantage. We have great people here. We are land of smile, as you know. And important thing for DC is telco industry. We have a big telco player here. We have submarine cable and inland fiber optic around the nation. And we have a plenty of telco expertise in Thailand. And the DC can be connect data center connectivity that will be less latency because AI need a low latency. And if we can put not only the hyperscaler, if we can put the HDC into each region, northern, southern, that will help to accelerate the AI use case in the near future.
Yeah, so as we know that the data center investment is involving like 100 billion baht, more than 100 billion baht investment in Thailand. And yeah, of course, government come to the picture. And I think Kun Supparat already touched a bit about government, but I still would like to ask, what would your idea that government can do more on this sector, like regulation, incentive? Maybe I start from Kun Supparat.
So I think the working directly with the Ministry of Energy, I think they've been very, very supportive on that, right? So there is based on Thai law, EGAT traditionally does not sell directly. But based on Thai law, if there is strategic national interest, EGAT can sell directly. So this has gone through the ERC, the Energy Regulation Committee, and been approved already. Therefore, this is something the government, I think, has really demonstrated their support. So it will be possible now to attract 1.4 gigawatts of customers coming into the country on that. That's number one. Right? Number two, I think you've seen all the announcements with BOI that we are trying to accelerate and work directly with the government as well to accelerate some of the licensing, the permitting, the work visas, and so on and so forth on that. But again, at the same time, I really feel that's just more of the standard norm that we have to do anyway on that. So I think overall, I've been in the industry now for about 10 years. The Thai government has always been supportive, but I think fundamentally, it really comes up to us as, you know, if we put on our DC operator hat as well, it's also up to us not to abuse the process. And what I mean by that is talking from a DC association standpoint, there's a lot of DCs that have entered different countries, for example, Thailand, and have asked for BOI approval. However, there's no real initiation to make the investment on that. This is also why the government can do a certain amount in terms of policies and be supportive. But if the private sector, which DC operators, and I'm also a DC operator, we don't actually make the investment and create that business case collectively together, it's hard to also create new and more attractive policies if immediate investments aren't really happening as well on that.
For the government, that you heard about that the government tried to eliminate all the obstacles. We have 100,000 law and regulation here in different industry, and we need to simplify that regulation for data center business or technology business. Similar to Malaysia, they have a department called MDEC that to be like one-stop service for data center industry. If the government can support that and simplify that regulation for data center to be a fast track, that will be, gain more attention from the investor. Yeah, definitely.
Yes, I fully agree. I think there are probably some perspectives that we need to take into account. On the one hand, there's currently the revision of the power development plan, and I do believe that data centers need to be recognized in that as a very special need in regards to also like a national strategic interest. Secondly, I think in regards to also make sure, as you said, like Thailand lives from its people. What we need to also take into account, because we are talking a lot about a huge interest of high scale investments. How do we make sure that we have value creation for the Thai people on the ground? So I think we really need to be smart at this moment where everyone is maybe a little bit hectic and excited about this new endeavors, that we make sure that there is a level of value creation designed into all these investments, meaning joint ventures. There could be like upskilling. There could be whatever. There are like different instruments that we could make use of. But don't get like overly excited about the potential of high investments without making sure that there's long-term benefits for the Thai economy. I think that's very, very important. And for that, I would really say, like, take a second, take a breather, think about what are smart, and you have very, very good people here. So make use of them. Yeah. And I think overall the infrastructure is there. Of course, it needs uptake, it needs upskilling, it needs a lot of capacity development around these topics. But I think we are at a very good starting point. And I think the energy transition goes hand in hand with the data center uptake.
So here about the government action that the speaker was thinking, I think it's also interesting to know about the private sector. So what would you think that Thai people, Thai enterprise, and Thailand as a country will be benefit from this data center growing?
Thank you. This digital infrastructure growing up, and I think it's very good for a local Thai entrepreneur. They can building the use case from AI. For example, because I used to work with the enterprise as a system integrator before, for example, for smart industry or smart city, that they can take advantage of the AI technology to build a use case for each individual sector. That will help them to grow up with the AI era here as well. And also the enterprise customer who can upskill and reskill their own people as well using AI technology. That will be benefit from this era.
So I think to answer the question, how can enterprises kind of benefit? So I think specifically, how can DC operators benefit, right? I think most of us as DC operators, we know it's a high capex investment. We know it's a huge amount of risk, and the pace of change, for good or bad reason, continues to accelerate. Number one, as you guys know, for the AI space, all of us are basically building for NVIDIA chips. And for good or bad reason, NVIDIA chips continue to change every 6 to 9 months on that. But at the same time, if you don't start to build, even if you don't have a customer, you will never comply. So I've been in the market now for over 10 years. And this year has been very, very unique. The smallest deal we've seen is 20 megawatts. The largest deal we are now seeing are 150 megawatts. And if you're not building a 200 megawatt campus, actually not by building, what I mean is piling the entire site, not just acquisition of the land, you will not comply, or customers won't even give you the RFI on that. But in order to minimize this risk to DC operators, putting my TDCA hat on, our job is to facilitate investment and ensure we do a reduction of risk. So imagine if you're building a 200 megawatt campus, but you're not sure if the power, even if you have PPA, will actually come through. You may or may not slow down your investment, or you may not decide to build. And if you don't do that, then again, the investment from the end customer won't come into the country. So I think hopefully with these 4 zones, with immediate access to power today, it then becomes more of how fast can the DC operators actually build their DCs, because the power is available now. 2 gigawatts across 4 sites, 230 kV, 500 kV on that. So with that, hopefully, we are then able to also at the same time on the enterprise side, on DC operators, able to instigate a filtering process. Today within the Thai market, there are 17 DC operators asking for power, and another 30 DC operators that are asking for BOI licenses coming into the country. That's almost 50 new logos entering Thailand. What we want to do as well from an association standpoint, make sure there is power, but make sure there is a balanced economics behind this, right? That we don't end up introducing 50 DCs, taking or may not take all the power, and the price from industry also goes down on that. So in short, another way to answer the question is that I think we are minimizing the risk for DC operators coming into Thailand. This is very unique for Southeast Asia, where we are guaranteeing direct access to power immediate with a lower power price, about 10% compared to the market rate on that. So hopefully this will result in DC operators coming to these sites and making the investment into the country.
Yes, I think from my perspective, it's upskilling, upskilling, and upskilling. So basically, we are facing a twin transition of data center innovations hand in hand with the energy transition. And there is a lot of potentials for job and for the Thai economy. So if we're looking at the energy transition, it goes from smart grid management, it goes from scaling renewables, like really implementing solar plants and so on and so forth, up to into data centers, like innovative cooling systems, everything that you can visit next to us in the exhibition. And I think there's so much potential in it. But what we really need to take into account, like there's people behind that doing this. And for that, we need to make sure that we are not blindly getting like overrun by other companies or other investors and being left with nothing. Because I think Thailand has experienced that in the past with being like victim by like aggressive investors on specific sectors. And when they left, there was basically no knowledge and skills left here on the ground. So kind of like avoid black box investments and make sure that there's upscaling. And then there's a high potential also for Thailand to become not only like a hub for data centers, but also like a global hub for this twin transition of energy transition and data centers.
So we know that the data center consume a lot of power and water, a lot of utility, right? So I think we want to keep this sustained. And what do you think that is a key challenge for the sustainability perspective for data center in Thailand?
Yeah, I can just quote because we had this week a discussion with actually one of the board members of the Thai Data Center Standards Association, and he said something really smart. If we would take not into account like national interest and sovereignty into data centers, where would we place data centers in the world? Probably in Antarctica. It needs to be cool. You need to have access to water. It should be less populated as possible. That would be a good place for a data center. Why are we not doing that? Because we want to make sure that we are not dependent on one single country to have access. Germany learned this the hard way. If you make yourself dependent on one country for energy access, it can go really badly south. So I think what we need to take into account, like, yes, for Thailand, it's very warm. We need to make sure that we have the water supply. We need to make sure that it's linked with renewables. For Thailand, that's mostly solar power. So yes, there is probably in the world smarter places to build data centers, but we don't want to be dependent on other countries, at least not solely. And this is what we need to take into account with sustainability. Really push RE. Wind and solar energy. It's for free. You have access. You have a lot of sun. A smart grid can balance all this renewable energy. We have seen this and we know that it works. Learn from the Chinese. They are building data centers with huge solar plants in the size of Manhattan directly next to it. So make use of this, learn from them, and try to be as autonomous as you can be.
So I've been told, I haven't verified this, but I've been told that EGAT has 1 gigawatt of renewable energy on that. And I've been told that the power price is roughly about 4.8 baht per kilowatt, or roughly about 14 cents. And I've been told through this exercise that TDCA is doing directly with EGAT and the Ministry of Energy that it is available for sale. The biggest problem in the past has been the DC industry. Funny enough, or TDCA, we haven't been doing a good enough job working with EGAT and the Ministry of Energy. Our previous focus was working with the Ministry of Digital Economy, but recently in the last 3-4 months, we've kind of increased our engagement with the Ministry of Energy. So technically there is available renewable energy. Now it's just a question that if there really is demand coming in, and again, based on our forecast, we see 1.4 gigawatt gross of demand. It's just basically putting the demand and supply together now. So I think Thailand is set up in a good situation where there is real demand coming in. There is access to power that's very cost effective. And there is now another channel that we still need to verify, but I've been told that we can't get renewable energy directly from EGAT. at least 1 gigawatt of power.
Okay, besides from the energy or sustainable, I would like to point out that economy sustainable. I'm not sure you heard a rumor about the DC. One of the DC they built here in Thailand, but we gain nothing. They just invest here. They bring their own people from somewhere else. But in terms of economic here, the government should balance that as well. Not only the promote, but should be balanced that our people should gain something from the construction and also in terms operation as well. Imagine that if this kind of thing happen here in Thailand, the economic sustainable will not grow because they use their own people, they use their own machine and just consume our power. That's it. That is one of my perspective for sustainable, not only the power. Yeah. Thank you.
So as we know that data center is very dynamic. They keep changing every day. And I would like to ask insight from the expert. What would be like innovative technologies or process that are coming and will change within the next 3 to 5 years for data center? Can I start with Kun Supparat?
So I think because there's so many different changes, I think you could have conviction. Conviction means that if I put on my kind of DC operator hat on, right? The market has changed so much that you cannot just build one site. And let's say you assume it to be an air cooling site, and then you ask for a one-time cost to switch it to a liquid cooling site, number one. Number two, the market is expanding so rapidly and customers are expanding so rapidly. You can't do a corn shell and do, for example, even a 10 megawatt fit out anymore. You got to have conviction. So I believe that the technology is there, but the business conviction is not always there with DC operators. So we're seeing where, based on customer feedback, we're seeing that they like to have the option of, let's go with this location where you have a 20 megawatt air cooling capacity. And the entire 20 megawatt is coming online within 8 to 10 months. And do you have another option of another site of a 200 megawatt campus with the building blocks of 50 megawatts? But the entire campus itself, you're doing piling for the entire site on that. You're not just doing first building, core and shell, and you do a 10 megawatt fit out. And then obviously that will be a conviction of 100% liquid cooling. That will be designed specifically in conjunction with NVIDIA's architecture for GB300s. So I think the technology is already there. It's just really more of the conviction of the DC operators to make this investment. And then again, going back why, from a TDCA perspective, we are trying to foster that thinking by helping to reduce the risk of if you come to these sites, again, power is available in ABC. So it's a low risk on that. At the same time, because of the continued changes of geopolitics and so on and so forth, based on customer feedback, they're looking obviously for players that have a regional footprint. They need the flexibility to go to one market, and therefore, if certain geopolitics changes, they want that flexibility to go to a different market. So therefore, again, the technology is there, but it's changing. And then on the third thing, which is really interesting, we were talking to a customer and their requirement says they don't require diesel gensets anymore. And this is an AI end user. So it's really interesting now how the design requirements are a little bit changing a little bit. Obviously, we said you still need gensets from our perspective, but it is not really so much of only about applying new technology. It's about rethinking the time to market a little bit more and the design at the software level of what they're doing now, which we find quite interesting. Yeah.
For innovation related to data center, I think the many vendors try to create the technology that they can be optimized DC operation to get use of the low power, how to operation with the low power for better PUE, better WUE. And also, I think in the next 5 years, the power issue that we talk about today maybe will be solved by SMR or MSR technology as well, if regulation and public awareness well educated.
Yeah, I think firstly, cooling systems will be crucial. And I think we can already see some over there. So I think that's where we expect a lot of innovation in the next years. The next is smart grid management. probably also with the use of AI. So it's a little bit of an egg chicken situation that we're having there. And lastly, and I think that's where I still have some question marks, is all the assumptions about the future energy use by data centers, because this is really right now not really taking into account that there is probably like a huge efficiency uptake of AI. Because it's a self-learning system by itself, so it will not take as much energy in the future to answer a simple question as it did 2 years ago. So is this also like calculated in the actual demand calculations, what kind of innovations also we have at hand in regards to the actual energy use? So that's kind of, I don't have an answer, but that's a question that I still have.
I would like to thank you, all the speakers and all the audience as well. And we wish to have this kind of productive session again next year. Thank you very much.